to KBLA, and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the business is. I would go good like where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds for deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify when you and God in time are best aligned.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to bury us, every us that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days, the midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the water.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch until you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ. That's me. And there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand. Or you can even tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Also, check out the open mic feature on the KBLA app. It's a really great feedback loop. If you ever have an immediate reaction to a headline in the news, or maybe it's something I said or something that one of our guests said, then right there in the palm of your hand, you can just press record, and don't be surprised if I respond to you. I might even respond to you right here on air just to make sure you're paying attention. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. All right. Happy birthday, DC. I'm joining you live from Washington, DC today, where it is the 235th birthday of Washington, DC. But how much do you really know about our nation's capital? As the Washington Post reports, it's been more than 2 centuries since DC was established as the nation's capital with the signing of the Residence Act of July 16, 1790. But back then, it was called the Territory of Columbia. Did you know that? Our fair city didn't have district in its title until the name change in 1871, nearly 100 years later. And DC, even still today, is among the most educated U.S. cities. And Washingtonians are stereotypically great lovers of bard trivia and fun facts. So raise a glass to celebrate the city's 235th birthday. And you can even go to WashingtonPost.com and you can test your knowledge of DC. If you're a true local or transplant or a total tourist, whoever you are, you can test it out on the WashingtonPost.com. All right. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, USA Today is reporting that Trump is lashing out yet again, but this time it's at supporters over the so-called Jeffrey Epstein hoax. President Trump has a message for supporters that are upset with his handling of records related to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying, quotes, they are weaklings who've been duped, and he doesn't need them. That's what he said to his supporters that seemed like they were attempting to hold him accountable. Trump lashed out at conservative backers who've raised questions about his administration's handling of the Epstein case, slamming them in a post today, a social media post today, and again during an Oval Office event, furthering what he described as the, quotes, Jeffrey Epstein hoax. That's what accountability looks like, or at least an attempt at accountability and transparency. Moving along, speaking of transparency, Representative Maxine Waters is making her views known on crypto. She's warning that crypto legislation is opening the door for Trump corruption and a financial crisis. Our friend and colleague Jaron Keith Gaynor over at the GRIO is reporting that the U.S. House of Representatives is set to pass landmark cryptocurrency legislation, sending the nation's first federal regulatory framework for stablecoin digital currencies to the desk of President Trump. Ahead of today's historic vote on the so-called Genius Act, U.S. Representative Maxine Waters led a group of House Democrats in opposition to crypto legislation, warning that it would open up the floodgates for financial corruption and further enrichment of the wealthy class, most especially Trump and his family. Waters is the ranking member on the House Financial Services Committee, and she called the Genius Act and two other related crypto bills, the Clarity Act and CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act, dangerous pieces of legislation. Now, look, Congresswoman Waters, she's been around for a long time. She's seen a lot. You don't get to be the ranking member of a committee if you're not paying attention. And she is warning us that this legislation may not end well for us. She said, quotes, these bills are a gift-wrapped invitation for Trump to continue his full-scale crypto con. They don't protect consumers. They don't protect our national interests. They don't increase transparency. She says that the bill legitimizes Trump actively building the most corrupt, self-dealing crypto environment this country has ever seen. The Genius Act, y'all should know, initially passed in the U.S. Senate with bipartisan support, 68-30, establishing a regulatory framework for payment stablecoins, including who can issue these digital assets. And so if you don't know, at least according to Congresswoman Maxine Waters, now you know. In other news, speaking of alleged corruption, ex-commissioner sues, saying that Mayor Adams ran NYPD as a criminal enterprise. The New York Times is reporting that a former police commissioner today filed a sweeping federal lawsuit against Mayor Eric Adams of New York City and top police officials, accusing the mayor of running City Hall and the police department as a criminal enterprise. The lawsuit marks the fifth time in 2 weeks that Mr. Adams' police department has been accused of wrongdoing by a former top official. So this isn't just somebody off the street. This is a former top official that is making these very serious accusations that will likely add to the growing scrutiny of the mayor's handling of the department as he seeks re-election in November, distracting from his public safety accomplishments, including a drop in murders and shootings. The commissioner, Thomas G. Donlin, a former FBI official, was appointed in the fall of 2024 to stabilize a shaky police department that had been micromanaged by the mayor, who had retired from the force as a captain. We all remember that. Well, Mr. Donlin, he stepped down in November, weeks into the job, after federal agents searched his home for classified documents in an unrelated investigation. He was replaced by Jessica S. Tisch, who has moved to curb abusive practices within the department. And so in the suit, Mr. Donnellan, he claims in his brief time in charge to have, quotes, uncovered systemic corruption and criminal conduct being perpetrated by NYPD's leadership. He says that when he reported his findings to the mayor, Mr. Adams, quotes, condoned the misconduct, allowing wrongdoing to continue. This story has legs, and we'll continue to keep our eye on this, as we know that our communities care a great deal about policing, over-policing, and transparency and lack thereof in police departments. Our communities have had more than our fair share of experiences, negative experiences, dare I say, with corrupt police departments. And so the fact that this story is coming out now, as the mayor is setting his sights on the November election, his November, what he hopes will be his reelection, this story couldn't have come out at a worse time, but we'll be keeping our eyes on it. When we come forward, we'll be joined with Desiree Cormier-Smith. She is the former special representative for racial justice at the U.S. State Department. There's a lot that is happening at the U.S. State Department as we speak. There's a lot happening in the world of global diplomacy around the world. When we come forward, we're going to separate the fact from the fiction with Desiree Cormier-Smith. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes. So it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie. Hit me!
National News: The Consequence. Informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and she is Desiree Cormier-Smith. She's the co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. She's also a former special representative for racial justice and diplomacy over at the U.S. State Department. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, I should say, Desiree.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Well, thank you for being here. I want to first start off with an exclusive that was published by the Washington Post about the Department of Justice really hitting states with broad requests for voter rolls and election data. For our leaders, learners, and listeners who may be a little less familiar, the Trump administration and its allies have launched this multi-pronged effort to gather data on voters and inspect voting equipment, sparking concerns among local and state election officials about federal interference ahead of the 2026 midterms. I know that your portfolio of work is global, but I thought you were the perfect person to ask this question to.
And why is that?
If you saw this story somewhere abroad, what would you say about the state of not just their democracy, but the state of everyday people, ordinary people, their ability to be able to decide for themselves, what kind of country they wanted to live in and what kind of opportunities they wanted to pursue for themselves and their children?
Yeah. This is why many of us who are focused on foreign policy have been screaming at the top of our lungs for so long, because we've seen this playbook in other countries around the world, and we see how quickly democracies can devolve into something not democratic, right? And authoritarians and authoritarian wannabes, they use the same playbook over and over again. So these steps are not new. So to your question, if I were to see this in another country around the world, we absolutely would be ringing alarm bells. We would be talking to civil society that's trying to push back on this and figuring out ways to support them. I would imagine that maybe the government, someone from the embassy would go talk to the government and say, hey, this seems a little undemocratic. Remember your, commitments under whatever UN treaty that you signed, right? Or the commitment you made when you were elected, or to your constitution, et cetera, et cetera. And so it is very concerning to see these steps here. And I think we need to take them seriously, because we've also seen how in other countries, when there is not a forceful, in terms of being swift and really resolute resistance to such authoritarian trends, they can succeed very quickly.
They can. They absolutely can. I mean, the most unusual activity of all places it's happening in Colorado, a state that candidate Trump lost by 11 points. Just a few days ago, we saw the president at the White House, really push members of the Texas state legislature to redraw the maps so that they can get at least 5 Republican seats out of Texas alone. And so, are we watching, voter suppression sort of in plain sight? Like, ain't nobody hide nothing.
Yeah.
They are over here, saying the quiet part out loud and on the mic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it actually reminds me of Guatemala. So one of my last trips I took as special representative for racial equity and justice at the State Department was to Guatemala. because they had a historic election in 2023, I believe it was, the end of 2023. And the opposition candidate, when no one expected to win, he won. And he won because of overwhelming turnout from indigenous peoples and people of African descent. And because of their turnout and their support for his campaign, the incumbent tried to deny the election results. Because somehow, just
sounds familiar,
right? Because somehow these people, their votes didn't count. Are they even real citizens, right? And so we see this actually around the world, where the legitimacy of a vote is often called into account when people of color, when those who are not often represented in government, when those who are marginalized the most actually get a chance to exercise their vote. And what happened in Guatemala was those same indigenous peoples who said, oh, no, you're not going to deny our vote. We are the original people here in this country. They protested for over 100 days. Wow. And it was because of their activism. It was only because of their activism was the rightfully democratically elected president able to take office.
100 days of protest, right? And so, I mean, look, we did a good job on No King Day, right? There's going to be mass protests across the country tomorrow. Yeah. Honoring the life and legacy of John Lewis and so many folks who have fought so hard for our voting rights. That's 2 days, right? So compared to the people of Guatemala, we got to keep that energy up, keep it up. Right. But speaking of, keeping up that energy, the Trump administration, is keeping up their energy, if not ratcheting it up when it comes to mass deportations. We know that the Associated Press is reporting that the U.S. is deporting immigrants from Jamaica and Cuba and other countries to the African kingdom of, is it Eswatini? Did I get that right?
Eswatini.
Mm-hmm. The U.S. sent 5 immigrants that it says were convicted of serious crimes to the African nation of Eswatini. And that's according to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The U.S. has already deported 8 men to another African country, South Sudan, after the Supreme Court lifted restrictions, sending people to countries where they have no ties. How bad is this going to get? We just saw a group of African leaders meet with President Trump. I was in the room. And it was very clear they were doing everything to appeal to his ego. They were, inviting him, to perhaps set up a golfing resort on property in Senegal. We heard appeals around nominating him for a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, they were going to great length to stroke his ego. And I would imagine part of capitulating to Trump means allowing him to send folks to their country to be housed. Is this becoming the new norm?
I hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised, because this administration's foreign policy, and we talked about this before, is completely based on transactions. It's all transactional. It's what can you do for me lately, right? And to a certain extent, it's always been like that. But this sort of outright, really tit for tat, like it's just bizarre, and it really undermines the value of our foreign policy. It really undermines our standing in the world, frankly. And more dangerously, why everyone should care about this, is that it really does promote corruption, right? Again, every single country's foreign policy is always based on their self-interest. There's nothing new about that. There's nothing wrong about that. But when the foreign policy is really centered on catering to the ego and the desires and the financial benefits of one person, of the president, that's a whole different story. That no longer creates a foreign policy that is actually good for the countries of both nations. It actually just means that we have leaders coming to the White House to stroke the president's ego and offer him investment opportunities that will benefit not the American people or not the people of that country, but will benefit this individual president and maybe his family.
That's right. In a series of posts on X, the Eswatini government said that it would collaborate with the United States and the UN Migration Agency to facilitate their return home and ensure, quotes, due process and respect for human rights is followed as a part of their repatriation. The government gave no time frame for that to happen. Is there anything that the United Nations can do to sort of thwart the U.S. plan, to send these folks to countries that many of which are not their own?
Not really. You know why? Because this administration has pulled essentially all funding from many of the United Nations agencies. And we were the largest contributor. Yep.
There's nowhere to turn.
Nowhere to turn. What do we do when the country who for the last quarter century, if not half a century, if not longer, has been the quote unquote good guy in the world, right? Who's dominated all these spaces, who has built the most number of allies and alliances and partnerships, who has the most embassies around the world, all of a sudden becomes not a force for good, and not saying that we've always been a force for good. Let me be very clear. Mm-hmm. But now is actively undermining that same global system, and in many cases being a harmful presence in many places of the world. I mean, it's a really scary situation, not only for Americans, but for everyone around the world. And I feel like it should also concern Americans because this is being done in our name. Mm-hmm. This is not what I want my tax dollars going towards, right? I don't want to be the world's bully. I don't want to only engage with countries if they can make President Trump richer.
Yeah. And also part of what's so terrible about this, and we're hearing this from folks like Trina Real Muto, who's a lawyer with the National Immigration Litigation Alliance. One of the points that she was making is that it's disturbing that we don't know what the exchange was to get the Eswatini government to accept these individuals. We don't know if there were diplomatic assurances, and if so, what they said. And we don't know if these individuals were given any notice. It's all being done in secrecy, in the name of all of us.
Yep.
When we come forward, more with Desiree Cormier-Smith, the co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. Again, we are separating fact from fiction from some of the biggest headlines trending around the world.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. Several people are recovering after an apparent stampede onto an escalator following the Beyonce concert in Atlanta Monday. Devon Ramsey said he was on the platform of the MARTA station when he heard someone screaming, causing people to rush the escalator that suddenly sped up, then stopped.
There was a lady laying on the ground with her young daughter, an older lady that had the proper leg up on the bench.
MARTA said several people were treated for cuts and scrapes in the hospital. One was treated for a broken ankle. A Lending Tree report finds that the state of Mississippi is leading the nation in mortgage application rejections for Black people. In 2022, the report shows the mortgage denial rate for Black applicants in the Jackson area was 34.2%. And it's National Black Restaurant Week. A full list of participating restaurants is available online at blackrestaurantsweeks.com. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Griffith Park on the southbound side of the 5. Delays away from Colorado. You're on the brakes and stretches all the way to the 605 freeway. Northbound slowing for the 5. We're seeing delays out of La Mirada from Valley View and stretches all the way back towards Lakewood Boulevard. And more slowing ahead in Boyle Heights, leaving the 60 and stretches towards the 2. Pasadena, the eastbound side of the 210, delays from Mountain and stretches all the way to Citrus. We're seeing delays out of Glendale, out of Burbank on that 134 eastbound, away from Pass Avenue as you continue ahead towards Glendale Avenue.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers have finalized negotiations to acquire shooting guard Bradley Beal, a 3-time NBA All-Star. The 32-year-old Beal agreed to a contract buyout with the Phoenix Suns and plans to sign a 2-year deal with the Clippers worth $11 million. Beal had conversations with the Lakers, Miami, Milwaukee, and Minnesota before reaching a deal with the Clippers. Beal told his agent the Clippers were his first choice. If Beal is healthy, he could be a major addition to the Clippers roster. Beal missed 58 games during his 2 years in Phoenix because of back problems. When he played, he averaged 17.6 points, 4.3 assists, and shot 50%. When Major League Baseball paid tribute to Hank Aaron during last night's All-Star game in Atlanta, MLB announced plans for a $100,000 endowment for Tuskegee University, an HBCU school in Aaron's home state of Alabama. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah,
gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
Some things can steal your sunshine. Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken.
Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
There's nothing like when you get that part from eBay and it just fits. Yeah, the first time. So you can do less of this and get right back to more of this. At eBay, you'll find all the parts you need, guaranteed to fit, at prices you'll love. Sounds good, doesn't it? eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. She is Desiree Cormier Smith, co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. And for all the folks that are listening and streaming in LA, if you remember the great Larry Aubrey, well, guess what? This is his granddaughter. And so you shouldn't be surprised that she is continuing to pursue justice for her on the global stage in the same way that Larry Aubrey spent so many years pursuing justice in Los Angeles. And so thanks again for joining us, Desiree.
Thank you.
And so we started off by talking a little bit about that meeting at the White House with African world leaders and Trump. And I want to get back to that because I have not been able to forget this experience since it happened. As I mentioned, I was on pool duty that day. And so I was in the room covering that. And, you know, when the president said to the president of Liberia that he spoke good English, beautiful English, you know, it was a little bit triggering because as somebody who has an African name, where when I'm out and about, a lot of people assume that just based on my name that I'm an immigrant, right? And so they'll very casually ask me, well, where are you from? And then when I say I'm from the Bay Area, it throws them, right? You know, but
you get the follow-up question, where are you really from?
Where are you really from? Where are you really from? And I'm really from the East Bay.
Exactly.
Right? But talk to us about what that exchange really communicated to the world, not just, you know, allies on the continent, but you know, allies around the world. What did that little exchange, which some people probably thought was fairly harmless, what did that really communicate, and how much harm might that create in terms of advancing America's national interest abroad?
Yeah, I mean, I think every Black person and probably every person of color immediately had a visceral reaction to that exchange, right? Because it was just so blatantly racist that you couldn't, it shocked the conscious. But again, at this point, I really shouldn't be shocked by anything that happens in this White House. It showed his clear and longstanding disdain and disregard for Black people. I think it also showed a lack of preparation, right? Like, these are basic things that a president should be getting in briefing materials, the bios of the leaders that he's going to be meeting, but also the basic facts of the country they represent, right? Liberia is an English-speaking country, originally a colony of the United States, right? Like, come on. There was no appreciation of that particular shared history, why he spoke English or how he spoke English. One would automatically know that if you knew anything about history. But again, we can't expect every single principal to know history, but this is why they get briefed. And so it showed a lot of things. It showed his clear disdain for Black people and his, I think, automatic assumption that somehow we are less than, right? We don't normally speak quote unquote good English, especially not foreign Black people, right? Like, how did you speak so good? Like, it was just bizarre. But it also shows a total breakdown in the normal processes in terms of preparation and briefing for principals.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really pulled focus because it really demonstrated backward thinking.
Oh, 100%.
Backward thinking. I mean, I remember, and I write about this in my book, Kamala, the Motherland and Me. I share a story that my father shared with me when I was a kid. I never forgot when he first came to the United States, and he attended an HBCU in Tyler, Texas College in Tyler, Texas. Hey, everybody. That's where he met my mom. And I remember he told me the story of being in his dorm room, and there was a bunch of guys that came up and they were banging on his door and they were saying, "Joe, your people are on TV. Your people are on TV." And so they all ran down to the student lounge. And right there on a little black and white television was Tarzan and Jane. Wow. Right. And so even at an HBCU at the time, that was the concept that people had of Africa, right? And so, cut to 2025 in the room with the president of the United States and presidents of several other African countries, and I thought, wow, the fact that basic history, that he didn't have a command of that, while at the same time you have, countries like China, global players, I should say, like China, that see Africa in its fullness.
Oh, yeah.
That see the economic growth that Africa represents for the entire globe, and they want a piece of that, right? Yep. And so, it to me was a reminder of how outdated this foreign policy is. I mean, they're selling it like it's the best thing since sliced bread, right? But in practice, it's missing the mark, and we, the American people, are going to be the ones left holding the bag well after Trump exits the White House.
That's right. That's right. And I also saw another clip of that really bizarre meeting and some of the exchanges, and I saw how Trump interrupted some of the presidents and the way that he responded to them, basically saying, like, we got to keep it short, go on and tell me where you're from. It was just so rude. It was so rude. You've never seen him interact with a European head of state like that. You've never seen him interact with a Latin American head of state, right? Like that.
Or Middle Eastern. I mean, he just met with the Crown Prince of Bahrain today.
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, not only is he, and he has shown us before that he is racist, but he has a particular animus towards Black people.
Yeah, he does. What he does so at our peril, and he does so at the advantage of the Chinese. The Africa Report is reporting that Trump aid cuts are handing Africa over to China.
As well as the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as well as the tariffs.
Because this is the thing. This is not like a game of Uno, where we could just pick another card and go in reverse, right? These countries are not going to wait on the United States to figure it out. They're not going to wait on the voting electorate, to make a different choice.
Right.
The world turns, and and people move forward, and they're not going to sit and wait. And even if they did, there are no guarantees that we're not going to turn around and make another mistake in another 4 years, right?
Exactly.
And so I don't think people are grasping the gravity and how long the tail is.
That's right.
Of what is happening.
That's right.
I mean, call me crazy, but I think a lot of what we are seeing and experiencing, my suspicion is that we will probably spend the next big chunk of our life in our careers, working to correct it.
That's right. On the domestic side and on foreign policy, because you have to remember, when you burn somebody, when you do them wrong, they're not going to just automatically give you another chance, right? Even if you apologize. So even if in 3 more years, there's another president that wants to move away from this isolationist, transactional foreign policy, you think everyone in the world is just going to be like, okay, no problem. Like, it's fine. We trust you again. No, like you said, this is going to have a long tail. It's going to take us decades to rebuild the trust and the credibility that we have destroyed in 6 months?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
People don't forget.
That's right. And so, Desiree, talk to us about the groundwork that your organization, the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice, talk to me about the groundwork that you are laying. So that when the time comes, for America to come to its senses and recognize that this isolationist foreign policy is not in our national interest, we will not be starting from zero. So talk to us about what your organization's working on.
Yeah, so thanks for asking. So the alliance is meant to be two things at once. One is a crisis response mechanism, right? Stop the bleeding, stop the harm that is happening right now to the best of our ability, that is happening right now through the foreign assistance cuts, through the gutting of the State Department, through the intentional undermining of human rights work, of justice work. It is also, at the same time, meant to be a forward-looking mechanism. We want to imagine a better foreign policy, one that is truly based on human rights and justice. And we are not advocating for a return of how diplomacy and foreign policy was conducted under Joe Biden, right? We recognize that that actually did not work either. It wasn't as bad as this, but it didn't work, and especially for a lot of marginalized people around the world. So we hope to also imagine a better foreign policy, one that it really does promote justice and inclusive, open societies around the world.
And that's what I love so much about your body of work and this chapter of your work, is that through the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice, you're able to begin to reimagine the future, right? And I think there are so many folks out there that just want to, go back to the normalcy that they can live with, right? But part of what your organization is saying is that, let's just really seize this opportunity, since they're breaking stuff, right? Making clear breaks from the past, right? What does it look like to do that in a way that is affirmative of our espoused values?
Exactly.
That is the work that you're doing, that you're leading, along with a number of other extraordinary leaders over at the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. Where can people go to tap in?
Yeah, please visit our website, www.theallianceForDiplomacyAndJustice.org. You will see all of our bios. There's 8 fabulous women leading this work. You will also see some of our work that has been published, including my last op-ed in the LA Times. And you can also get in touch with us and sign up for our newsletter. And if you want to support our work, you can also do that on the website.
Right, that's right. And real quick, Desiree, for folks who may have missed that beautiful op-ed that was published in the LA Times, give us just a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, essentially, we were calling attention to what is happening at the State Department through the intentional and systematic destruction of the human rights offices and any other office that is focused on marginalized communities or justice issues, including the total abolishment of the Office for Global Women's Issues, the total annihilation of the Bureau for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. And that one is really nefarious, because they're not completely deleting or removing the Bureau, but they are shifting it. So they will remove any kind of policy role for anyone focused on democracy or human rights or labor issues. But they are also now going to use it to promote, quote unquote, Western values. It is really dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I want to encourage people to check it out. The headline reads, "A plan to take human rights off the table at the State Department." I could not imagine in my lifetime or any lifetime an administration that would be taken seriously with an active plan to take human rights off the table in terms of the work of the U.S. State Department. I mean, who is the U.S. State Department? What is the U.S. State Department? Without having a clear focus on advancing human rights. I mean, I can't imagine.
I mean, it sends a really scary but clear signal, right, to the rest of the world and to Americans that human rights, equality, justice, they don't matter. They're not foreign policy priorities. And the argument we make in the op-ed is that this is also a signal that they are not policy priorities here at home either. And so we are trying to raise the alarm about what's happening at the State Department as a potential preview of more repression to come here at home.
That's right. In the piece, you write that Rubio's plan would shutter most of the State Department's offices devoted to human rights and lay off an estimated 80% of the DRL staff, most of whom are experts in human rights and democracy. That's already underway.
It happened on Friday.
We've started to see video from just this past Friday, and So, this is not enough. This is nothing to sort of turn away from. This is something for people to lean into, because I hear you loud and clear, Desiree. You're saying if this is what their priority is or lack thereof on the foreign policy front, then hold your hat, because they're going to make you blush with what they intend to do stateside.
Yeah, that's right.
Our thanks to you, Desiree Cormier-Smith, the co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. We appreciate you and all the work that you and your colleagues are doing on the front lines of global diplomacy.
Thank you. And thanks as always for having me.
Absolutely. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, The Quiet Part Out Loud, when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley show conversation with James Farr. At one point, James said something that caught me off guard. Not because it wasn't true, but because it is. Black Altadena is gone. I know it may seem stupid and non-productive, but I stopped in that moment listening to Tavis and James. I broke down and cried. In the back of my mind, I told myself we can bring it back like it was. But James Farr's reality check hit me like a ton of bricks. My community is being murdered. I said murdered, not by the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire, but by the people we elect to protect us, and by greedy and gatekeeping nonprofits who cannot see the forest for the trees. For the first time since the fire, I truly feel and understand my wife's inconsolable pain. Because I'm struggling to find a path to recovery and at least some form of normalcy. My community is crumbling right in front of my face. Lack of funding to rebuild is slowly destroying us. Many of us can no longer hold out, and developers are gobbling up our property. When I hear voices like Tavis Smiley and James Farr speak truth to power on KBLA Talk 1580, it reminds me that we're not crazy, just unheard. Make no mistake here, KBLA delegation, this is war. And we, the people of Black Altadena, are losing. It's like waiting for reparation. Not gonna happen, brother. In this new orange man world, no one, no entity is persuaded by right or wrong. There is no consequence for doing the wrong thing, and no accolades or support for doing the right thing. Will war-torn Black Altadena survive? Your guess is as good as mine. But what have I got to lose? I'm in my 70s and don't have time to wait. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once suggested that riots break out when people have no hope. But there is nothing left to burn down in Altadena. I wish I could say I remain hopeful that my beloved community will rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. I wish I could. With a KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Pasadena Community Coalition at gmail.com. Reach out to me. As always, we welcome your feedback.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Moments ago, you heard me reference my experience covering former Vice President Kamala Harris in Africa and all the things that I learned while on aboard Air Force Two and in Ghana, in Tanzania, in Zambia on African soil. Well, a lot of people are asking, will she or won't she? At least the LA Times is asking that question as the California governor's race waits on Kamala Harris. Let me just tell you what the LA Times is saying. They're saying that Democrats running for California governor, they've spent the spring and summer working to win over powerful donors and interest groups who could help them squeak through a very competitive primary election. But The candidates and many deep-pocketed Democrats are still waiting for a decision that will have the biggest impact on the race. You know what that is? It's whether former Vice President Kamala Harris is running. Since Harris lost to President Trump in November, the race to replace Governor Gavin Newsom has been in suspended animation, with candidates trying to plan their campaigns without knowledge of who their biggest opponents will be, and a few are making contingency plans to run for other offices, and some major donors are waiting to write big checks. Democrats in the race are talking to many of the same potential donors. Folks like Tony Thurmond is quoted in this LA Times article. He's the state superintendent of public instruction who launched his gubernatorial campaign in 2023. He's saying that he's asking, is she going to run? The only answer Thurmond said is an unsatisfying one. We don't know. And neither do I. And so for everybody who's asking, what do you know? Do you know if she's going to run? Do you know if she's not going to run? I don't know for sure. She has not called me to say what she is doing next. But my suspicion is that for somebody who's been a public servant most of their adult life, at this moment in time in the state of California, in our country, I would be surprised if she decided to do something different in this moment. And that's just my personal opinion. This is not me socializing something else or something that somebody else has said. This is just my opinion. And so like all of you, we're going to wait. We're going to wait to see what Vice President Harris decides. But make no mistake about it. I think there's still an appetite out there for whatever it is that she has to offer. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More in our next hour on the entertainment and fun story circuit. There's some fun stories that we're going to share in the next hour. So when we come forward, you don't want to miss those.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. A new study finds no link between health issues and traces of aluminum in vaccines. Researchers in Denmark analyzed health data of over 1 million children born over a 24-year period. They found no connection between small amounts of aluminum in vaccines and health conditions, including